last year I went and I played in $1 million game in Los Angeles, and it was on a show called Hustler Casino Live. And basically, when I was on there, it's $1 million buy-in, which is too much money for me. Like I'll play like 200K or 250K, but $1 million is just way too big. So I sold pieces to a bunch of my friends, and then I went on and I had like whatever percentage of my action. I think it was 25 or 30 or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And then if I lose, I can afford to lose $250,000, but I'm not going to lose. Like I brought 2 million with me. I can't afford to just dump 2 million off on the show. Like that's just it'd be ridiculous. So, so for me, that was kind of my threshold.
How did that one go? We all want to know.
Yeah, I lost some money. It lost small. I lost a little bit. It wasn't
just a little bit.
I lost a lot of different people's money.
Lost a lot of friends. Pretty lonely barbecues that summer.
It is funny how much worse it is to lose your friends' money than your own money. Like when it's your money, you're like, I'm an idiot, but I'm the one that pays the price, so it's fine. But when it's other people's money, it's like it feels much worse.
Oh, of course. The one guy's just like, this motherfucker, I've got minus 100 grand and like 6 worthless images of a monkey on a sailboat. I wasn't friends with him in the Ethereum time. Damn it. I made all of it back if I was there for that tip.
You could have been there.
Yeah, that would... So you do feel you play, or I guess you probably have to fight back against wanting to play conservatively with even other people's money, because you have that impulse as a pro of like, no, if I start playing conservative, I'm more likely to lose. Like I have to play my game.
So the rule of thumb with poker is if you sit down in a game and you feel like the stakes are too big to where you can't play the way you need to play, you've already lost. And a lot of people, they like to play in really big games because there's a lot of ego in poker. It's like, look at all this money I have. I'm so great. Look at me. Like, I'm so cool. And so I feel like for a lot of people, when they sit down in a really big game, it's ego. And you have to be able to play at a stake level where you're able to execute your plan regardless of what the stakes are. Because if you can't, then you're going to be playing a lot worse than you should be playing, or you're scared. You never want to be scared. Mm-hmm. Scared people get run over. So there is a fine line there. But going back to what Kyle said, where he talked about being bombastic, I think like, so when Full Tilt Poker and Poker Stars first got really big, like 15 years ago, whenever like the moneymaker boom happened 20 years ago, there was just so many ad dollars thrown at all those players, because with US poker, like the amount you make per player is so high that those shows would pay people to go onto the shows and promote their brands. When US poker got cut off in 2011 on Black Friday, a lot of those ad dollars went away. So like there weren't all those deals to just like go onto shows and get paid to do it. I think like as we see poker kind of come back to the US now with the sweepstakes stuff, we might see that again. I could see it happening again, but the glory days were crazy. Like it was just all like basically old school gamblers just like yelling and doing dumb shit for like hundreds of thousands. You look back at some of those hands, you're like, what is even going on right now? It's crazy.
Look at what they're wearing. They look like NASCAR cars or NASCAR drivers, even with all the patches. Everybody's got bedazzled with like this website or that website, and then like I know Doyle Brunson had his own thing, like Doyle's Room or something. He always had that gear on, and there was this little. You could tell who was like the various groups were sponsored by various groups of sponsors, and there was clearly some stuff going on behind the scenes. I'm sure there was sponsorship drama and all sorts of stuff going on with that money. But that was interesting. I liked that time. Like literally, they'd be sitting at the table bedazzled with sponsorship shit. And it was like, this is crazy. Is there really that much money in it? When Moneymaker won, and he showed every accountant in the United States that he too could be a millionaire by outsmarting the rest of the field. And then I remember those poker sets were like $100 for just plastic chips. Like you couldn't get them. It was crazy.
So I just looked up. I didn't know who Doyle Brunson was because I don't follow poker. But see, this guy's what I picture about a professional poker player. He's got a big old hat on. He's wearing a flannel shirt. Like this, was he like was he more known for his look or because he was one of the greatest of all time?
So he was like one of the, let me think about how to phrase this. He's like one of the first players that kind of went from the old school era where it was like Wild West gambling saloons to like modernized poker where it's like a lot more nerds and like, you know, just like business guys and whatever. So he like got to bridge that gap. And so he had a lot of kind of like old school, like a lot of old school like characteristics, but then also played it across all the eras. So he wrote some of the most famous poker books. Like his famous book was called Super System, where like he basically explained how to play poker and all that stuff. Obviously, the way that he played poker by today's standard wasn't very good, because now we have the solutions, right? Like you can actually look up and figure out what the answers are. Whereas back then you had to like make up some shit, you know, like, okay, it's the guy with 5 teeth is betting. What's that mean? And, you know, whereas now it's like all just math. So I think like he played across a lot of generations and like pretty successfully and wrote a lot of like he's like he's basically like a folk hero for poker. You know, he's like one of the people that really helped the poker become what it is today. So
nice. Well, he looks cool. R.I.P. to Mr. Doyle Brunson.
Yeah, he played like even in his later years, he was in an electric like mobility types thing, and here he comes, and like everybody in the poker rooms like stands up like the president just walked into the room.
Inspect his wheelchair for ace.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, that's Doyle Brunson." As he comes through the casino.
Yeah, it was like 15 years like that where he was like in that chair and just whizzing around.
Yeah. That's sick.
He has a son that's really into poker too. His name's Todd Brunson. But yeah,
if you were to take a typical, like an average top poker player, how much of the income comes from winning and how much is from content creation, like the sponsors, just the being popular?
So it kind of depends, right? I would say for my adult life, for most of it, poker was illegal in the US. And so for like kind of generic white American men, there was basically $0 in sponsorship because there's no market here and you don't bring in any unique people. So what I did was because like there wasn't really that opportunity, I made my own businesses. Like so I own upswingpoker.com. It's one of the biggest poker training websites, which might be taking a hit now that I can't beat these idiots on this one.
What's it called again? You said it quickly, and I imagine I'm not the only one who didn't hear it.
Sorry, upswingpoker.com.
Upswing. Okay.
Yeah. We actually have a March Madness sale going on right now too. So there's a good size discount and stuff going on over there. But basically like my concept with that was we get like people that have actually won a lot of money playing poker and get them to teach. Because I feel like a lot of training sites is like, and here's Frank. Trust me, Frank's very good. And you're just like, well, did Frank win any money anywhere? And you're like, oh, you're gonna love Frank. Whereas like our
How
site
can
is
you
like,
afford to pay Frank? Why isn't he out winning the millions still?
He got sick of it, you know. He wants to pass on he's more in the knowledge passing on part of it.
He's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. All right. You want to learn poker or not? Get in here. Oh shit. Okay.
Off the top of your head, do you remember any of the like old timey rules that people like Brunson or whoever had, where like they didn't have the math of it? So were any of them ever just like, oh, you see a fucking 4 clubs, you get the hell out of there. Doesn't matter the context. I don't play with them. Like just silly nonsense.
So there's some old school thinking, right? So like for example, it used to be really popular to bet like a really small amount as a bluff, because if it works, the price is really good, right? And I think Doyle actually popular. He called it like the post oak bluff or something like that. But in theory, that's actually just very much not correct, because if you bet really small, then your opponent kind of has to just call you with like almost all their hands. So you actually, when you bluff, you typically want to bluff big, and then when you have good hands, you bet big too, and it's unclear what you have. So stuff like that was just wrong. And we learned more as we came along and developed. But like, I mean, it's not a very fair comparison, right? Because we have machines that just tell us what the right thing to do is.
Sure.
The machine can play 10 lifetimes of hands and learn to play in a way that, and Doyle Brunson spent 60 years playing and didn't remember it all. So there's a lot of flying by the seat of your pants, you know, but that machine is just perfection. That computer knows.
I've been watching chess interviews, and the current top players, I think everyone agrees, would beat any of the top players from earlier generations. The level of play has just gotten better, and it feels like there's a parallel to poker there.
Well, I remember when it was a big deal, like that Deep Blue machine was going against Kasparov But now we talked about the other day how Magnus Carlsen can't beat the one on his phone.
Right.
On his phone.
Yeah.
I love that. That's I like that some games can be figured out, I guess, that can be solved. That it's an equation that can be solved and not a seat of your pants, shoots and ladders kind of situation.
So both chess and poker, I wouldn't use the word solved, and if I said that earlier, I would correct myself. But they're like, we have very good estimations now, right? Because both poker and chess are similar in that if you look at all of the possibilities, it's a gigantic number. So to truly solve it, there should be like a direct answer to everything. We don't have that yet, but we can start to approximate those things, and those approximations are going to be like quite accurate. So it's just changed the game immensely because in both those games, I think chess is a great example because it's like now there's like a computer that can tell you exactly what was correct, and it's way better than humans, and it sets the bar, and we use that to learn. Which I think the downside to that is it makes the skill set different. So like, and I'm going to say this unironically, back in my day, which was like, 10 years ago, that was actually pre-solvers. So I specialized in one-on-one poker, heads-up poker, and I basically made up all my own strategies. Like I had to have my own strategies of like how I played. And, like 5 years later, we could just see if those were right or wrong, or 3 years later, or whatever it ended up being. So it's made it so that the skill set to be good at poker has changed from like who is creative and crafty and like hard to figure out to like who can memorize the most data, which is not great for poker, in my opinion, because it makes the game about memorization and who just like legitimately who's going to spend the hours. Like who wants to like every day show up and spend all the hours studying will have an advantage.
Yeah, I can see that.
Have you ever seen a Chinese student who has been trained on an abacus and they do that mental math in their heads, but while manipulating an invisible abacus? Like,
is that what they're doing?
Yes. So you'll see them doing mathematics in their head, but they'll manipulate an invisible abacus because that allows them to utilize the whatever connection they built training with that with it. I would imagine something similar could be used for poker because those kids, I mean, they're doing these rapid like calculations, these very difficult calculations. I wonder.
Well, so
I'm always fascinated when I see that.
It's more about like heuristics and theory, like seeing a situation and saying, oh, when I studied this spot, I knew that like when I have the ace of the suit out there, that means I should bet big or whatever it is, stuff like that. So it's more just like creating heuristics for strategies. So, but I mean, the good side of that though is it's not like if you have a question, you can go out there and get the answer. Like you can if you have a hand and you get a bad situation, you can go out there and find out what you should have done, which is cool, right? Like you can actually get those answers. Whereas back in the day, you'd have to like argue with people. Hey, what would you do? Oh, I don't like that. And then like two guys would argue, and at the end of it, everyone would be mad, and that was it. You never even knew what was right.
Do you have a training app or something like that on your website where you can play out hands in that way and then review them to see what you should have done?
Yeah, we have a software called Lucid Poker, and it's like a trainer basically. So you can play.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. It's nice to be able to play and actually see what those solutions look like, and then you can practice playing hands. And then when you actually go play, you have this experience of things that it'll tell you when you make a mistake, right? So you can get your mistakes out of the way for free rather than making them at the poker table, which is a good amount better.